Hello, everyone. I'm getting set up here and just want to invite you to grab a pen and paper as we will get started here shortly. I'm on a little bit early, so if you are too high and welcome, and otherwise I'm just gonna make a couple adjustments to my space and get ready for everybody else to join us. So we're a couple minutes from rolling here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Katie Armstrong. Today's workshop is all about passion, purpose, and profession. And I'm excited to share this topic with you as it's one dear to my heart. But we are going to wait until top of the hour to actually begin. And I, again, just invite you to prepare yourself by finding a nice, comfortable seat, someplace that you can really drop in and feel connected, and to grab a pen and paper. You may very well want to take some notes, whether it's taking notes on the things I say, or even more importantly, the ideas that arise in the process of doing this workshop. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Katie Armstrong, and today I will be guiding a webinar on passion and profession, when it's a good time to begin your own business. I want to start out by simply saying welcome. I suspect that if you have joined us for this webinar, it's because you've considered beginning a business of your own, or perhaps already have. And it's from a fellow entrepreneur that I am just so excited for the journey that lies ahead, because entrepreneurialism and running a business is an adventure. Many would say a spiritual practice, and certainly an opportunity for perpetual growth. At least I believe that if it is something that is a dharma, something driven by your true soul's purpose, or you're willing to set goals and continue to set your eyes on the future and challenging yourself, you can't help but grow. And that is such a rewarding process. So before I get started, I just want to say, like, there has been no better time during our lives, my life as a nearly 40-year-old, to begin a business. And here's why. I've been calling the time that we sit in right now a cosmic reshuffling. Certainly a challenging year for many of us with the COVID pandemic, but also underneath the surface, there's been a constant shifting. Large corporations are changing both their product and their systems, and loosening their grip on how they've always done things. Example of this is so many of us were asked to go virtual and work from home. And many of the companies that had to do this never in a million years would have thought that they could survive with virtual employees, and now are actually shutting down their office space because it's been so effective. Similarly, huge swaths of people have been without a job. And as we have been asked to return to our work, demanding better compensation, more benefits, all of these are going to shuffle how and what our jobs look like. And for many of us, this time at home with our families, this time of challenge and fear and confusion and chaos has really brought front and center our priorities. Priorities are something I teach about quite a bit. But in reckoning our personal priorities, we may realize that the life that we've created no longer fits, or that we are headed into a new life chapter and want to make a change. And when an entire society is experiencing that transition, that shifting of priorities, that confrontation of whether the life you have now works, whether the companies you work with or have created are what you want to continue pursuing, when all that's happening, it creates what I'm referring to as a cosmic reshuffling. And there's no better time for you personally to make sure that you are doing what you love and building a life that you want. And just going to say this, folks, if you are beginning a business or thinking about growing your business or want a side business, any form of entrepreneurialism right now is a beautiful time, because new people are moving into new areas. I don't know if you've really stayed in touch with this, but there has been a massive movement around, at least in the United States, all over the country. People are moving in and out of cities, shifting from East Coast to West Coast. And in that means that you can be new somewhere and have a chance to compete with someone who's been there for a long time. People are looking for that new massage therapist or that new exciting offering, whether it's a product or a service. And you can really begin to shine and show up in a new way. And it's not really seen as like odd or unexpected, but rather exciting, new, and may even just go a little bit under the radar as far as it being a new offering on your part, but rather just an offering that someone's excited to grab onto. Additionally, as I mentioned before, so many people are more attuned to online offerings, whether that's educational offerings, product offerings, service offerings, and the technology is rising to the occasion. So there's no better time to get online. But with that push and pull towards online, other people are really seeking something new in their physical world. So all this to be said, cosmic reshuffling. And the final thing is, like, as I said, this has been a hard and challenging year for so many people, that if you have an offering that is there to support, nurture, heal, help others, it's a really important time that you bring that offering out into the public, because people need it and they're seeking it, which also speaks to why this might be a great time for you to build or grow your business. All right. Well, so the other reason that I wanted to do this webinar today, besides obviously this cosmic reshuffling and the fact that I think it's a great time for you to start considering whether you, my friends, want to launch or grow your business, is that I wanted to just create this container to contemplate it. A quick one, to recognize that sometimes our heart is actually speaking quite loudly, but if we're in the routine of our everyday life, we can't hear it. So I wanted to offer you this 30 to 40 minute container to just ask yourself some questions about whether this is the right path for you. Entrepreneurs come in every shape and size. As I will discuss in a bit, there are all different kinds of businesses. Some are full-time, some are part-time, some are more hobby, some of them are big. You know, product offerings, service offerings, etc. All these varieties. But I just want to see what in this container that we're building today, what arises for you. And that's where, as you may have seen, I've invited you guys to grab a notebook and a pen and take some notes. Notes on things I say that resonate, notes on things that come up through your own psyche, whether that's ideas or people you want to talk to or a quote that feels inspirational. So anyhow, I also wanted to, I guess I should introduce myself before I get too much further along. My name is Katie Armstrong. I am the owner and founder of a clothing brand called the Om Collection and an educational and consulting business called Inspired Living. I have been running businesses since I was 14 in lots of different industries, from media, cannabis, health and wellness, and obviously retail. I'm also an attorney and an athlete. I'm a wife and a mother of a 1-year-old girl. And I understand that entrepreneurs are a special breed of people. And yet, because there are so many different varieties of businesses that you could run and you could start today or grow what you're already doing today, that you can choose your why, your what, and your how to serve your life as a whole. That's important to me, and my mission is helping people see that their businesses are living, breathing entities that they are building to work in consort with their greater vision for life, their dreams, their passion, their purpose. All right, gang. So let's just get started. Let's just dive right into why you might want to start a business. I'm just going to throw out some things that I've heard from my coaching clients, and that actually even speak to the why I started many of the different businesses that I've been a part of. And I'll give some examples of those just for those of you who aren't as familiar with me. But perhaps you just feel a burning need to bring something out into the world. That passion, right? So that speaks to the passion part of the passion versus profession of this webinar. It might be a product. Like when I birthed my clothing brand, I literally just wanted a certain kind of fashion out into the world. It might be a service. Perhaps it's a type of massage, or a business consultation business, or teaching someone how to do Pilates. Some service that you feel passionate about, either because you've invented it, or it's a something that you've learned that has changed your life and you want to share. But a burning desire to bring that new perspective, that new voice, something to a new location, or just simply something that you just can't help but yourself but to bring out into the world. That's a great reason to start a business. Perhaps you want to be an entrepreneur because you want flexibility. Flexibility in location, flexibility in time. You want to build your own schedule, or you want to live somewhere different than a city center where a more traditional job would be available. Perhaps you just simply want to build a life that's a little bit out of the box, and it doesn't fit with a traditional 9-to-5. And so it's through creating your own business, your own vision, your own timeline, your own schedule, etc., that you're able to actually live the life that feels true to you. I also think people start businesses for intangible reasons, like they want to feel the accomplishment of building something from the ground up, or they have just creativity oozing out of their being, and they want to have an avenue for constantly creating new things and sharing themselves with others. And perhaps a normal job wouldn't allow for that, or it'd feel too cramped or contained for them. I mean, a lot of what I'm speaking to is freedom. Entrepreneurs have a tendency to be trying to create a life of freedom. That is the carrot that draws so many people towards building their own business. And the other big one, many of my clients are starting a company or shifting what they do to be something that fits their new life after a life transition. So Inspired Living, the coaching and consulting business I have, our niche is really life transitions. That's people who are retiring, people who have just had a kid, getting married, who've had a devastating life event, an injury, an illness, or it can be something really positive, right? Like they just came into a bunch of money, they just sold their prior company. These life transitions are those moments where we slow down long enough to contemplate what's next. We're often shifting our priorities. Like, let's say you were raising a child for 20 years, and then all of a sudden you're gonna have a whole bunch of free time on your hands and less financial obligation, and you wanna start giving back. Life transitions and the recognition of that next chapter can be very clarifying for what you want, and if having all the things we discussed, like freedom of location, an opportunity for creativity and giving oneself, or that burning desire to bring something specific up into the world, life transitions and those moments tend to be a reason people start a business. Now, I want to say before we get too far along, being an entrepreneur doesn't mean you're only an entrepreneur. So what do I mean by that? I'm a full-time entrepreneur, but I'm not only an entrepreneur. There have been times where I've been an attorney, or I've worked at a yoga studio, or I have worked for another company. Often I am working with startups, so I am in that sort of entrepreneurial space, but that's just because that fuels my fire. But for many other people, starting a business is about a part-time entrepreneurial endeavor. Maybe they want a little bit of extra money. Maybe they want to bring a certain sophistication, and that speaks to more the professionalism that I'm going to get into about this webinar. But maybe they want to justify a hobby. So I want to take a moment and say, I don't think that's a bad thing. When I was an attorney, I was also an athlete, and I was pursuing it as a profession because for me, that justified the 30 hours a week I was spending on it. It justified the cost of the equipment that I needed. It added a level of sophistication and put me around the kind of people that I wanted to be around. Did I need to do that to still do the level of sports that I was doing? No. But for me, that was exciting. That wasn't a sense of obligation that actually felt stifling. But through this whole webinar, which is a bit more of a lecture than some of my other workshop-y webinars that I do, I want to present to you this idea of structure. Creating a professional business has structure to it. And whether for you that feels like a support that you can build off of, or whether that feels like a cage, those are important things to know. Similarly, whether you decide to work for someone else, I ask you, is the structure of working for someone else a support system that allows you to feel free and go on a vacation or have your weekends off? Or does it feel like a cage that prevents you from being who you are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday? Because understanding how you interact with responsibility, personal responsibility, whether you're shouldering the burden of that business or whether you're supporting someone else's, can really help you determine whether you are an entrepreneur and want to be, and to what scale. Because again, entrepreneurs do not come in one size fits all. They come in a myriad of different sizes, shapes, colors. So I created a list here of all the different ways a business can vary, because I'm curious what it is that you see in your mind, why you're drawn towards starting your own business. Again, is it something that you want to do on the side for a little extra cash, or to monetize a hobby, or perhaps you're wanting to build a lifestyle and you just need something that allows you to make money along the way? Or do you have a really big vision of a big company with a lot of people? So anyway, here are the different ways that a business can vary. Size. You can have a business that sells a couple $100 a month for some spare change. You can have a business that runs through it a couple $1 million a month, right? Those are very different businesses. Similarly, you might have a company that is only you, a solo entrepreneurial endeavor, or you might have one that has 20, 50, 500, 5,000 employees. Obviously, a very different vision that requires a very different level of effort and builds a very different life for you and all the people involved. You might build a company that's local versus regional versus national. It might be in person, like a massage business, or it might be virtual, like my online store. You might have a simple business. You might sell a single product with a website that's super simple and you have the whole thing automated and you barely touch it. Or you might have a very complex business. Those different choices create very, very different businesses. The simple business might be a choice because you want to just have a little extra money and you want it to be clean and simple, versus the complex business, like my clothing brand, very complex business. That has a certain weight to it. Now, it has such an extensive amount of creativity that can get poured into it. But at the same time, that comes with a responsibility. And does that fit with your life? Does that fit with your vision? These are the kinds of questions that you want to be asking yourself before you launch, as you grow. And in my opinion, as someone who consults business owners throughout your life, to make sure that that business is working for you and that you aren't a slave to your ideas. Other examples are, do you offer a service? Do you offer a product? We talked before, about the fact that a product-based business has, is it a product you make? Is it a product you buy? Does that product change? Does it stay the same? Services, right? Like, is it just you offering the service? Is it others? Is it a recorded service? Is it a live service, in person, virtual? Now, all these ingredients, I'm not asking you to come up with like, this is exactly my idea right now, because frankly, I'm going to talk to you about how it's really good to broaden your idea and ask yourself lots of questions and then start to hone it in, hone it in, hone it in, hone it in. I had intended to speak to this earlier on, but one of the other reasons I wanted to do this webinar right now is because some very sharp, very on point people are acknowledging that the way business is done, what is being sold, and who and how it's being sold are all changing. That's back to this cosmic reshuffling. You may have seen, like, Tony Robbins recently was encouraging people to build online educational businesses because he thinks that that's like the wave of the future. And he very, very well might be right. But I just believe that after we've been through so much this last year and a half, and after we've confronted what's important to us, and after so many have had our lives flipped upside down, now is the time to ask yourself, what is going to truly serve you in this next chapter, and be courageous enough to give it a try. As a consultant, I work with people who are doing all kinds of different businesses. And I'm able to do that because I've personally worked in so many different kinds of businesses. I said I would explain those, and so here I go. My first ever business, 14, was teaching swim lessons, private swim lessons. I marketed through flyers. I had a full schedule. I was working like 8 hours a day, at least every single day. It was a simple business, simple offering, straightforward, in person, local. It showed me that any idea, even from someone as young as a 14-year-old, if they have a certain level of expertise that they can share, if they can explain that, they can have a business. I was also a lawyer. Now, in that world, I chose not to be an entrepreneur at first. I chose to work within a structure, but I found that structure, for me, felt more like a cage than a support. So I prefer to allow that to be one of my many offerings and to pair it with consulting. So consulting is another business. For me, that's predominantly virtual, not in person. I sell it online. It's international. I have clients all over the world, and it's based on my personal experience, but I also wanted to create a more professional container for that offering. So I went back to school for additional information. Another business, my clothing brand, it's a 10-year-old business. I had no idea what I was doing when I started it. I didn't start it with a plan. I started it from raw passion and a desire to offer something to the world, something that I loved. But over time, I had to embed it with professionalism because, I have some guiding principles I will share with you guys during this webinar. But one of them is that if you really care about something, I invite you to do it well, and I invite you to do it with a high level of professionalism. And sometimes you already have that professionalism because of life experience. You've worked in that area before, you've lived through something and truly have like it embedded in your cells of your body and can share that. But other times, to have a true professionalism, it's important to go get additional education or to work through a program, something that's going to allow you to check off the boxes and make sure that you know exactly what needs to be done to do it right and do it well. Other companies that I've been a part of, and this speaks a little bit to some additional differences in companies. I've had self-funded businesses like my clothing brand, but I've also helped raise millions of dollars for other startups I've been a part of in industries like media and cannabis. It's a very different beast when you start working with someone else's money. And when you start adding additional zeros, the more organized you can be, the more sophisticated and the more dialed in you can be. That's important. But for some people, that will rob them of the passion of their project. Whereas for others, what drives them to be in business is a paycheck, is a certain level of lifestyle, that which requires money. And so I just want to call out the elephant in the room among a lot of the business consultants out there. There's nothing wrong with making money and having money as a goal. In fact, I think it's incredibly important to know what you're aiming for to make sure that your vision for your business lines up with what is possible and viable, and that you can build a strategy from where you're at to where you're going that includes numbers, because it is through numbers that you can evaluate whether you are actually successful. That doesn't mean you don't include additional value-driven goals. Like we discussed, if your reason is you just have to get something out there into the world, great. But do you also need and or want to make money? Perhaps your reason is you want freedom. Great. But do you need to still eat, and what does that cost? These variables and how they all interact together is what helps you formulate a comprehensive goal, business vision, business plan, strategy, and ultimately success story. The reason I named this webinar Passion versus Profession, When to Start Your Own Business, is because I've seen businesses birthed from both sides of the spectrum. Someone has a profession that they want to liberate from the corporate constraints and go out on their own, or they have a certain professional, polished offering that it's time to create a business around. Perhaps they want to make a certain amount of money and they want to build a business to satisfy that professional goal. Other times, as we've spoken, there's just this fire, this passion. Perhaps it's a hobby that they love. Perhaps it is a philosophy or an embodiment practice that just lights them up and they have to share it. Perhaps it's like a deeper calling and they are going to do it come hell or high water. But those are the two things that have a tendency to drive this business creation. And they both ultimately will have a place. Like you can be a professional wanting to offer something into the world or build a business, but I want you to show up every day lit up. And for some people, just having a dollar amount can light them up. But making sure that that business fits their lifestyle, fits their schedule, fits their skill set, and that they have a healthy plan in place to accomplish their goals is super important. Similarly, those passion folks, I want to make sure that passion stays potent. And I want to make sure their lives are set up in a way where they can remain lit up, where they can remain personally taken care of and supported. And for some people, that means they need to go all in and build that business and build it swift, but have some extra education or support to do it. Or for others, it means that maybe that passion project needs to not be the way they make their primary income, but instead it's something that lives on the side so that they can go to a job and still have that stability coming from someplace else and then be lit up in their extra time for that passion project. But again, this all speaks to knowing yourself, being really crystal clear on your priorities, your lifestyle, your life chapter, and taking the time to evaluate all of those details and how they interact together, and then thinking through the path to where you're going. If this webinar were a little longer, I'd invite us to do a meditation, to call all that you've been. Perhaps we can just do a single breath of that. All that you've been, all that you've done, all that you've learned, all that you've accomplished. Just invite it into your body. And then sitting here, what dreams do you still have today? What are you called forth to create? How do you want to feel this moment and the next moment and the moment after that? And what does that invite you to create? What are you drawn towards? What are your needs in the future? What are the things that you want to say you have done by the time you take your last breath? And holding all of that, allow that to inspire this moment, and whether creating a business right now or building or changing the business you already have right now is something that is in harmony, serves the greater good of you, those around you, speaks to those priorities we've discussed. So I'll give you guys a bit of a sneak peek. Every year around this time, I help guide a B School group. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Marie Forleo is an online business educator who has a phenomenal program called B School. I've personally gone through it 5 times. I've taught others how to go through it 4 times, and it is one of the most comprehensive entrepreneurial guides I've ever been a part of. And I assure you, I have learned from many teachers, and I've even gone to more traditional means such as law school to gain insight and skills and the education to live the life that I want to live. But B School is profound because it speaks to the early stages, the what, when, why, and how, to help assure that you have the right vision. But then it walks you through every different area that you're going to need expertise in to actually launch and sustain a business that is meaningful to you. Everything from marketing to specific versions of marketing, like email marketing or social media marketing, to things like a website, financial planning, etc. So that's coming up. In fact, we'll be launching that in the next few days. And I bring it up because of this concept of professional versus passion. If you are someone who wants to make a major shift in a business you already have, or wants to get clear on what the business is that you want to offer, and you don't feel resourced to answer those questions or skilled to actually build the thing that you envision on your own, I want to invite you to resource yourself. 2 avenues I personally offer to help resource you in that way are one-on-one coaching. I do project packages where if launching a business is important and you already have the idea, within 6 sessions, we've laid out all the major ingredients so that you can go and take it to the next level. You can use that same project package where we go into every area of your life to help you clarify a vision. But if you want something that's self-guided, but with additional support, I encourage you to join our B School group. This year, my bonus is actually one-on-one coaching. So I'm offering 3 free coaching sessions and Voxer access. Voxer is basically a text and or voice app where you can just reach out and ask me questions, and I'll respond to them casually, but within an hour typically, as you go through B School Live. The reason that I wanted to do this year was because I went through B School again right as the pandemic was starting, and I was focused on my clothing brand. I decided to do it only with growth of my clothing brand in mind. We were able to grow 10x when so many other companies were faltering and failing. Similarly, I went through B School the following year with a focus on my coaching business, and helped me get crystal clear on why I was running this business. And I made some major changes to the actual offerings that I was providing. And it helped me get clear on the fact that given my life circumstances, I was about to have a baby. We were in lockdown. All these various details related to COVID helped me create a viable and profitable business day one. So those were 2 extremely different examples. One was a multi-6-figure business, product online. The other was intended to be in-person, smaller, more lifestyle offering business that originally was local but needed to pivot to online. And both saw such success that I wanted to say, hey, online community, Now is the time to maximize this cosmic reshuffling and ask yourself, what is the life that you want to live? And then provide yourself the support and infrastructure and knowledge that you need to create it, and to invest in yourself. Like, I hear over and over again that people have saved more during COVID. Many of us were given government subsidies or grants. I encourage you to use it towards building the life you've always dreamed about, and to take the time for yourself, if you don't already have a very clear vision, to polish it. Create a plan, create a strategy, and start implementing it. Believe in yourself. Take the risk. And if you're a little more risk averse, or you realize that, like, hey, I actually like my life, I just want to augment it slightly, still ask yourself, like, is there a business idea that you want to do that would benefit from being done right, being done professionally, even if it's small, even if it's a side business, something that might provide you an opportunity to grow into it, to retire into it, to sell it, but something that would just be like an extra. Anyhow, I promised I'd be done within 30 to 40 minutes, and we're getting close to the end. If any of this is interesting to you, you can obviously check out my website, inspiredliving.coach, for information on the coaching that I do. And I try to do my best on the website to explain different ways I've worked with people and how I support people in either clarifying a vision or implementing a vision or holding themselves accountable, but really leaning on the fact that I have a lot of experience creating strategy around business and around building lifestyles to support business ideas, and that you can lean on me and we can move so much faster together. Or you will receive an email tomorrow with some of Marie Forleo's educational teachings that kind of give you the flavor of the work that she does. That's a bigger bite. It's a slightly bigger investment, but I'm throwing in some free coaching on the back end of it, because I think that if you have all the content sitting there and just a little bit of one-on-one personal support saying, you've got this, or helping you think through a difficult idea, or pushing through a personal obstacle, the sky is truly the limit on what you can create. And I believe, this is my personal philosophy, that all of us, if we are doing the thing that makes us truly happy, if we are living the lives that allow our offerings to come out into the world, that allow our schedules to be in harmony with our health, that's when we have a truly peaceful world. So my gift to this world, my dharma, my purpose, is to help other people figure out their purpose and build a life around it. And if that includes a business, help them build the business around it as well. So I hope that this was useful to you, that this inspired some ideas, helped you maybe realize that there is an idea percolating for you, and that now is the time. And if it is, to join me in one capacity or another and to begin. So if this was useful to you, please share, whether this is sharing the YouTube video itself, sharing my website, or inviting someone to join my newsletter. And you can find out more offerings, including what our free offerings are, over at inspiredliving.coach. Again, my name is Katie Armstrong, and it's been a pleasure to be with you through this webinar. I hope that you remain passionate, and that if you are called to bring that passion into a place of a profession, that you begin today.